Today we're going to talk about atoms, ions, isotopes, mass number, atomic number, and what makes things where on the periodic table, what makes them stable, what makes them not. And there we go. First element I want to look at is lithium. Lithium, as it by definition, has 3 protons. Its atomic number is 3, and that dictates where it is in the periodic table. Okay? All lithium atoms have 3 protons. If it does not have 3 protons, it is not lithium. However, lithium can vary in the number of neutrons it has. It can either be found in 2 forms. It can be found with a mass number, which is the number of protons and neutrons combined, of 7, because here it has 3 protons and 4 neutrons, or it can be found with a mass number of 6. Those are both stable. If I remove that neutron, it becomes unstable. Typically, smaller elements like to stick around a 1-to-1 proton to neutron ratio. When we get into the bigger elements, such as like lead, you're looking at a ratio much closer to 1.5 to 1 in order for them to be stable. I also want you to notice that the protons, which are positively charged, are balanced out by the electrons in a neutral atom. If I were to remove one of these electrons, you would notice that it has a positive 1 charge. And I also just want to take this chance to point out that metals, which are found on the left side of the periodic table, like to lose electrons, because once it did that, before it lost the electron, you had 1 electron floating around isolated in a shell. Atoms like to gain or lose electrons if possible to complete their outer shell. So lithium, to do that, would lose 1 electron. Since now you have 1 more proton than electron, you have a positive balance, so it's a positive 1 ion. If I look at a non-metal, let's make this work here. Let's work our way over to oxygen. Not stable at this point. This is definitely not a good ratio, so I'm going to add some neutrons to make it all work. And oxygen typically has a mass number of 16, meaning it has 8 protons and 8 neutrons. Now the mass number consists of protons and neutrons because those are the 2 things that contribute to their mass. If you remember, a proton and a neutron is about 1,800 times as massive as an electron, so we don't really worry about those. Now I'm going to add electrons to the point where I'm a neutral atom. So I'm going to need to add... Now it's neutral. We have a balanced number of protons and electrons and neutrons. Doesn't have to be though. Oxygen, as you can see, needs 2 more electrons to complete its outer shell. That's also given by the fact that it's 2 atoms away from being like a noble gas. So oxygen is a nonmetal found to the right of the staircase on the periodic table, and nonmetals like to gain electrons to complete their outer shells. So here we would have oxygen as a -2 ion, as it has 2 more electrons than it does protons. So we've gone over isotopes, which are atoms of the same element with a different number of neutrons and therefore having a different mass. Ions, which are atoms that have gained or lost an electron. Metals like to lose electrons to complete their outer shell, and they become positively charged, and they're called cations. Nonmetals like to gain electrons, and they become negatively charged, and are called anions. The atomic number dictates the identity of the element, and that is based on the number of protons, and the mass number is the number of protons and neutrons combined, and describes what isotope of that element you have.